On our honeymoon, my husband and I decided to visit Athens, the land of gods and mythical stories. Everything was perfect. The sky was clear, the sun was setting over the Areopagus, and we, as a couple in love, tried to capture this magical moment with romantic photos. It was the perfect setting until fate decided to play a cruel joke. While we were immortalizing that sunset, we got robbed. Yes, in the middle of this dreamy scene, someone turned us into the stage for a theft. My husband, who was holding the bag tightly as if he were a bodybuilder, had his bag suddenly disappear as skillfully as a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Inside the bag, of course, was our fortune, a chronological Bible, because naturally we had to have something spiritual to balance the tragedy. The diamond ring that belonged to my husband's German grandmother, who I'm sure was turning in her grave over this loss, some money enough to feed us for a few days, and most importantly, our passports. But as it turns out, we were destined for chaos. And of course, this happened on a Friday. So we were without our documents and had to wait until Monday to go to the consulate. Lucky us, right? Still, we were determined not to let our honeymoon be completely ruined. So, on Sunday, we decided to take advantage of the opportunity and head to the city center to get photos for our passports. What could possibly go wrong, right? We arrived at the photo studio, where we were attended by a very friendly Indian man with a peculiar taste in decor. In the middle of the studio, between cameras and photo backdrops, he had miniature swastikas. Naturally, I was suspicious and wondering, am I in a suspense movie? But I was kindly guided to the photo session. He seemed to have an artistic touch. To improve our passport photos, he decided to lighten our skin so that we would look more presentable. The result? We became pale, almost ghostly, and our faces looked as though they'd been slimmed by an amateur photo editor. In summary, we were unrecognizable and, in a way, slightly deformed. I was starting to question my choice of dream honeymoon. But the climax of this personal tragedy came when, on Monday, we arrived at the embassy to solve the passport issue. The first bad news? They couldn't issue my passport because I didn't have any documents proving who I was. In other words, I was officially non-existent to the world. But then, in the height of desperation, Christo entered the scene. No, this is not a religious metaphor. The embassy staff member's name was Christo, and luckily, he seemed to be the answer to all my prayers. With a celestial calm, he called the Court of Justice in Brazil, where I worked as a civil servant, and asked them to send my documents. So, the next day, my passports were delivered, and we could finally continue our honeymoon. And, of course, the irony didn't stop there. Everything we went through, every disastrous step, felt like a divine joke. But in the end, despite losing our bag, our dignity, and probably a few years off our lives, we managed to restart our honeymoon and perhaps learned a thing or two about the resilience of love and the power of a staff member named Christo.